Hi, um, this is a presentation of the importance of nutrition and sobriety, and my name is Justin Gaddy. I am a candidate for the Master of Science in Applied Nutrition program with the University of New England online. A little bit about me. Um, Justin Gaddy is my name. Education, I have an undergrad from Skidmore College in '99 in Spanish and pre-med, and currently I'm working on the Master of Science in Applied Nutrition, and hopefully going to graduate in 2019 this December. I've worked in a variety of different fields in healthcare, um, as a dietary aide for a skilled nursing facility. I'm currently a licensed massage therapist still, and work when I can. Medical assistant, physical therapy aide, chiropractic assistant, so a lot of neuromusculoskeletal areas. But kind of in between that, I was also a functional alcoholic for 10 years. And yeah, it's tough for me to talk about it still and heal from it, but hopefully all this will help. And yeah, hopefully it'll help someone avoid some of this. 5 years ago, I went to detox rehab. I lived in several sober houses, and I have about little under 3.5 years of sobriety now. So I made this presentation. The outline of the presentation, first the learning objectives, then I did an activity. I actually recorded this yesterday, or excuse me, not recorded it, but delivered it live yesterday. And I had them fill out what I'm about to show you, the current eating choices. Then I'll describe about addiction and alcoholism, nutritional deficiencies that can occur from that abuse, an essential part of recovery, which is eating right, behavior change, which is what we're talking about, step-by-step new nutrition habits, eating in recovery, some healthy diets, and discussion of the activity and review of the current eating behavior and what they selected, sample foods and meal plans, then questions and discussion, and additional information. I put books and then also web resources, and then my references. I thought this was a funny outline here of a bad food pyramid, essentially. But this is really what a lot of people in sober houses, unfortunately, when you just get sober and stop abusing something, you don't know how to eat, and you're really malnourished, and you go off anything that's going to hit those dopamine areas that you were just using. So caffeine, chocolate, frozen foods, takeaways, anything convenient, anything instant, gives our brain that gratification in the beginning, at least. So the learning objectives, what I found is that hopefully everyone will learn to decrease the urges and cravings by eating nutrient-dense foods and learning what those are. Hopefully abstain from substance abuse by consuming higher quality foods to heal the body and the brain, including the mind. And then learn to adopt healthy eating patterns to help create a healthy, sober lifestyle. And I did have this image from Canada Health, which Professor Kathy shared with us. So I started out with this activity. Activity, how do you eat now? Sorry, I don't know how to do this. Essentially, that okay, we'll try that. The activity is how do you eat now? And this was developed by Townsend et al. From the University of California, Berkeley, I believe, and they use it for the SNAP programs. It's a visually enhanced food behavior activity and assessment tool. So this was perfect for the audience. So I gave them this. They filled it out. There were 16 questions total. This is the first side. Then these are the last 4. It kind of folds as a brochure. Then in The middle questions are, goes over, do you drink soda? Do you have milk during the week? Fruit, how much do you have? Do you know what real fruit is? Vegetables, do you drink milk? Again, take the skin off the chicken, have fish during the week. Well, what does your fridge look like? Is it empty? And then how would you rate your eating habits? So I had them fill this out for about, 5 minutes. And then they put it down. And I said, okay, we'll talk about that later. Addiction in the body. So first we talked about the addiction in the body and how the physical effects of addiction, I reminded them, can cause serious health problems like heart failure, heart disease, liver failure, and kidney damage. And then the kidney failure, it does cause the kidneys to filter out our blood for waste and help us release the waters or retain water. That's the normal function, but the long-term drug addiction can take serious toll on them. For example, people addicted to crystal meth, heroin, and others, kidney failure is kind of common. Also in liver failure, alcoholics, I think people know that, but they aren't the only addicts that should be concerned about liver damage and failure. Prescription painkillers like Vicodin and Oxycontin can also damage the liver when habitually used over the years. Also, heart disease or heart failure. The class of drugs known as stimulants includes cocaine, can definitely cause serious damage to the heart. The longer the cocaine addict goes untreated for addiction, the more severe the damage. The research has found that it also includes other stimulants as well, methamphetamines. Lung damage. So, lung damage, many addicts smoke the drugs to feel the effects. And as we all know by now, smoking anything causes long-term damage to our lungs and increases our risk of cancer. You can see the picture there. Addiction also happens in the brain. It has been found that the abuse can disrupt how the brain functions over long term. And when the brain is not receiving all the nourishment it needs through our food and nutrition, it is not receiving any mixed signals from outside drugs or alcohol. Brain neurons can really properly function and maintain proper balance of the neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters are common to affect mood and behavior, and they're often linked with drug and alcohol addiction. The common ones are serotonin, endorphins, GABA, and catecholamines, for example, dopamine and norepinephrine. But these neurotransmitters work in the body to relieve pain, control stress, and produce all the reactions needed to shape how you think, act, and feel. And boy, are those all the reasons why people use and abuse and will get caught up in the disease. So the nutrition link is there's also a sugary snack and sugar addiction. So there are a lot of sugary snacks filled with simple sugars that can be consumed after or when trying to quit. The severe fluctuations of glucose levels in the body can occur that can also affect how the body functions and lead to common problems facing and recovering addicts and alcoholics, such as hypoglycemia and adrenal fatigue. The picture is, I thought was interesting, hijacking the brain, which goes into what drugs do to us and how it rewires it and can damage it for a while, but hopefully with nutrition we can reverse or at least heal some of the pain that we've caused. There's also addiction in the mind. And I make a distinction between the brain and the mind because the brain I consider as a hardwired feature, something that maybe we were born with, our genetics and all the neurons may be formed also over time and through our life experiences, nature versus nurture. So really the nurture part of it also reinforces what's wired currently. But addiction, alcoholism included, and when I say addiction from now on, I'll include alcoholism addiction. It can produce a lot of awful things in the mind. These are definitions of insanity, and you don't think straight, you get anxiety, Um, I was self-medicating, but because addicts rely on drugs to feel good or to avoid unpleasant withdrawal symptoms, they'll typically wait, they'll typically feel anxious or restless while waiting for the next dose or fix. They'll also experience depression. Depression and other mental health problems are widely known to be risk factors for addiction to drugs and alcohol. So this is the cycle of addiction you see to the left, and these feelings are combined with feelings of guilt or shame related to the addiction. I definitely had that. And it's easy for a clinically diagnosable case of depression to develop from this. So what comes first, the chicken or the egg here? And then there's a lot of paranoia as well. And these are just three of some of the feelings you can have. And many people report strong feelings of paranoia while actively addicted to drugs like cocaine or marijuana. So, what does the average addict eat in sober living? I found this really fascinating, and I laughed when I found it. Um, and this is how I presented it to the group, and we all kind of laughed because this is how we ate. No one taught us how to eat. Um, I once heard a person say, or maybe I read last week or the week before, that an addict's nutrition habits or self-care habits are like teenagers, and that you kind of forget everything as to how to take care of yourself, and that includes eating. So, you're when you just get sober and you detox, you go to maybe a house, you're in an institution, you go to one of these intensive outpatient programs that I'm presenting to at the moment. For breakfast, you might not have breakfast. Um, you might just have coffee or maybe bacon if you're lucky, eggs if you're real spoiled, hash browns, some sugary cereal, Pop Tarts, toast, anything easy. Um, Definitely, luckily I never got into cigarettes, but people smoke a lot to wake up, stimulate them, and then have energy drinks for lunch. A lot of people will just, have very heavy, um, really highly processed, quick things. A lot of fast food, burgers, pizza. Um, so anything kind of convenient, and they're all missing the essential fruits and vegetables that we need now. Snacks, a lot of different snacking, but it'll be candy, chips, coffee, definitely energy drinks, just awful stuff. Dinner, and maybe eat a protein, maybe I'll just go to sleep without it. Um, Maybe have I there's a lot of pasta, um, high carbs, and then a lot of sugar stuff, because that's also what your brain craves when you're going through withdrawal and trying to figure this out. But then nighttime, sometimes people do snack, um, you know, through the night, and that's when you make a lot of bad decisions because you're tired and you're hungry, so you have ice cream and sugary cereal and frozen foods and processed foods, and there are syndromes that can lead to addicts eating in the middle of the night, and they've identified that as a night eating syndrome. So it's a thing that occurs. The main point that I was trying to drive home with them also is that if you try to supplement and really trade one addiction for another, meaning a sugar addiction, excuse me, meaning a sugar addiction, the as you can see to the left, it's that cycle, a perpetual cycle. And so I was trying to hit home that poor nutrition is one of the critical risk factors for substance abuse. And if you ignore your diet, then you put yourself at risk for a relapse. And that's the last thing that we would want. If you eat a diet high in junk food, essentially the page before, you may find it more difficult to stay substance free. Junk food is highly processed, contains preservatives, hormones, artificial colorants, and sugar. what are the major nutritional deficiencies that we lack when you're trying to recover and you do years and years of damage, decades, severely malnourished, lacking vitamin C. So no vitamin C means you can have continuing deficiency, which can cause chronic depression, fatigue, among lots of other scurvy and other diseases we've studied. You can have magnesium, which is a function of the symptoms of deficiency can include confusion, apathy, loss of appetite, weakness, and insomnia. Calcium deficiency, depletion affects the central nervous system. Zinc inadequacies result in apathy, lack of appetite, and lethargy. Iron depression is often a symptom of chronic iron deficiency and low energy. Manganese is proper for the use of B vitamin complex and vitamin C, which the B vitamin complexes are very important for people in recovery from addiction, as we'll see next. Potassium is also one. Depletion is frequently associated with depression, tearfulness, weakness, and fatigue. And chromium enhances glucose uptake into cells. A deficiency can cause hypoglycemia or low blood sugar. And you will have a deficiency in, most likely, omega-3 essential fatty acids. And adult skin orders and anemia can occur and develop as a consequence of this deficiency. In addition, more nutritional deficiencies. As I said before, the B complex vitamins are essential to mental and emotional health. The list of B vitamins include B1 thiamine. Deficiencies can trigger depression and irritability, can cause neurological and cardiac disorders. Vitamin B2 deficiency, riboflavin. An article definitely published back in 1982 in the British Journal of Psychiatry. They definitely were able to help psychiatric patients recover from treatment and found that they were deficient in B2. Vitamin B3, niacin. This depletion causes anxiety, depression, apprehension, and fatigue. Pantothenic acid is symptoms of deficiency or fatigue, chronic stress, and depression. So far you see a trend here. Vitamin B6, pyridoxine. Deficiencies can disrupt the formation of these essential neurotransmitters that were needed in disrupting from addiction. Vitamin B12 deficiency will cause depression. Folic acid deficiency is a common cause also of depression. My point is, if left untreated, addiction can cause irreversible damage. But there is research that if you start reversing the damage by using healthy nutrition, one can heal and possibly prevent relapse. So, nutrition, it's an essential skill in recovery. You have a lot of recovery skills when you're trying to detox off a substance and trying to recover into normal life. These are just some of the main skills to the left, but I was focusing on number 2, so the nutrition part of it. And so I described the proper food and nutrition are essential in a recovery program as they keep the body and brain strong and functioning properly. Most substance abusers need 3 square meals a day with good quality protein, complex carbohydrates, and fats served at every meal, the appropriate fats. And they often need snacks as well, especially during the early stages of recovery. This quote by Dr. Charles Gant was a psychiatrist that followed and worked with inmates recovering from substance abuse. And he said the following several years ago: people become better much quicker with far fewer symptoms and stay drug-free much longer when they follow good principles of nutrition. That is big. So the first thing you want to do is really establish a healthy eating routine. And that's really important for people in recovery because you didn't know how to take care of yourself. So it's crucial to develop this foundation of good eating at regular times and amounts. People who've been abusing have not been practicing these. They get in the habit, and they should get in the habit of eating at regular times and make that part of their daily routine. Well, and people, like we discussed before, who abuse alcohol and drugs struggle with depression, and particularly when they've stopped, also because they're not self-medicating anymore. So, following this regular dietary pattern and habit can it's been found that it can help mitigate these mood swings or depression swings or lows or highs, which can help protect their sobriety. Can also help protect depression, and it can stave off cravings. Depression can leave you wanting more sometimes, to feel numb, and that's not a healthy thing. And the essential reason is many alcohol abusers and drug abusers self-medicate to deal with the emotions they can't handle. That was my situation. And when there's emotional distress, they reach for the drug or the drink, and they're much more likely to do that if they are hungry or malnourished. So, eating and recovery guidelines. Well, this is by my plate. I made it simple. I made it childish because that's what we are, meaning recovering addicts and alcoholics. We didn't know how to eat, and I wanted to make it simple. So I described the USDA's My Plate and how that replaced the food pyramid years ago as a guide to reference, ideas and recipes and regular meals healthy throughout the day. I recommended the 3 main meals a day as that habit, and then 2 to 3 snacks in between as well, nuts, fruits, berries, and then obviously to increase their fresh fruits and vegetables, eat foods made of whole grains, eat more beans and grain products, and limit the amount of red meat eaten. Also hydrate, drink an adequate amount of water each day. So I said in general, 8 ounce glasses of water every day. Very dehydrated, and then diluted. The electrolytes will get out, and they'll be pretty deficient in a lot of things. So hydration is important. It'll also stave off cravings. And then trying to switch to decaf coffee and herbal teas to decrease the caffeine intake. So this acronym I learned early on. When you are feeling an urge or a craving to relapse and to grab for that substance that we were addicted to, you use the acronym HALT. And you remember that as hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. My angry was anxious. So that was one of the main reasons I used. There were panic attacks I suffered for years. But so remembering HALT is a common acronym in the recovery community. And it should mean people should not get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Many of these can trigger relapse, which is spot on in my experience. Then, as I worked with the social worker in the presentation, and we talked about behavioral treatments, involved working with her, and then also to help change the behaviors that lead to the heavy drinking or abuse. These behavioral treatments can share certain features and can include some of the general following, and these also include and can include nutrition recommendations and eating habits. So developing the skills needed to stop or reduce drinking or using. And they help to build a strong social support system, which is imperative. Working to set reasonable goals, step by step, one day at a time. Coping with or avoiding the triggers that might cause relapse. And those are important to identify with professionals so you can use this HALT And so what I said is, all right, let's look at the hungry aspect. How can we attack that? So I showed him a copy of my recipe that I prepared, the mango chicken curry with bell pepper and basmati rice. Um, this is the more healthy version, as I took out some of the coconut milk and the skin off the chicken. Um, and I think that was about it. Actually, it was pretty. It was and the coconut oil. It was pretty healthy in general, um, if you look. But with this, the cholesterol here was 97%. But then when I took those parts out, it shot down to 30%. So it was great. And I told them, this obviously try to make this, and it was really good and actually pretty easy with all those things, and gave a lot of fresh differences to people's diet. And then these are the directions. And I printed all this out and gave them copies so they can have this as well. So it was a great dish. I also gave them a sample meal plan, which I adapted from the references, and kind of an ideal, and tried to also tell them that whole plant foods are cheap compared to, for example, meat and cheese. So, like, for example, dried or canned beans, bags of brown rice, and veggies in season, but during the winter, possibly as frozen veggies as well, and those are very affordable. So I think that kind of helped people understand that eating nutrient dense doesn't always mean, having to spend a lot of money on organic and going to Whole Foods. So it's doable, and a lot of them are on SNAP benefits and stuff like that. So a lot of low income or no income. So for breakfast, in this meal plan, you can choose an oatmeal muffin, pancakes, quiche, omelet, yogurt. For lunch, sandwiches, salads, soups. For dinner, soups, chowders, rice and beans, chicken, vegetables, tortillas, lasagna, vegetables. Um, and for snacks, you can have yogurt, fruit, oatmeal, cookies, custard. Now, some of these choices may not be ideal for different things, and for us in perfection seeking nutrition, but for example, lasagna and some sandwiches and stuff, but and muffins. But to get, for example, a highly malnourished addict who is so skinny and frail and needs calories and needs some fat and needs some carbs, I think the doctor would generally recommend this until they get to their normal weight, and maybe their blood values are normal, and then they can progress to kind of leaning this out. Then I did another sample meal plan. So if you didn't like the first one, you can have this one as just an example. So for breakfast, this is a little better, a little more complex. A fruit smoothie with mixed frozen berries, banana, spinach, unsweetened Greek yogurt, flax seeds, unsweetened almond milk. Um, and they sell those locally. I just bought one last week, which is great. It was a whole mix already frozen, all that. Um, all the berries, spinach, banana, kale. It was great. Then you can have an AM snack a couple hours later, piece of cinnamon toast if you'd like, spread with whole grain bread, almond butter, or had the avocado spread, which is awesome, or hard boiled egg. It gives them lots of nutrients. For lunch, you have a large plate of mixed raw veggies, topped with tuna or chicken salad, lentil soup, or other bean or grain soup. And for an PM snack, a piece of fruit, string cheese, handful of nuts, really to kind of keep you going until dinner, so you don't have any lows. Dinner, well, you can try some quinoa, another whole grain, a good piece of salmon, fish, some asparagus, or other cooked vegetables, and a green salad topped with pine nuts or other nut seeds and berries, and that's great. And then for a snack, you can have I put in a bowl of frozen cherries, but you can do anything you'd like. So there are some possible barriers we talked about. Um, Possible barriers to eating better and getting to these points of healthy eating for a recovering person. Number one was educating people on the importance of nutrition, which hopefully I tried to start yesterday. Another access is transportation. If they have a car, if they don't, if they're able to get to the store. My example was I lived in Boston for 3 years and did not have a car, so I had to rely on the public transportation. There were only certain food stores that were available to me, and a lot of food deserts. So it was difficult, more difficult. Also, access to affordable food, so that can be challenged as well. If you just have corner stores or markets, um, or don't know what the affordable food is, that can be difficult. And finances, I recommended if they don't have SNAP benefits to, and then what SNAP is, to maybe apply for it to see if they qualify, because that can help them out as a supplement to their regular food budget. Then educating them and knowledge, so that could be another barrier if they don't know what to buy. If they don't know, they don't have enough resources. And so how to cook recipes, how to prepare things. But people shared some interesting recipes yesterday and told me how to make some plain pancakes and banana ones, and it was good. And then if there are medical or psychological issues preventing them from understanding this or physically getting there. So those are just some barriers for this audience. So at this point, we took back out that survey, a discussion of food behaviors checklist. And so we got it out, and I said, well, what questions surprised you the most? And really, a lot of them did not. They drank a lot of soda. They drank different things. Really, everyone. So question 3, yes, drink a lot of regular soda, drink fruit drinks. Um, don't really have any vegetables or fruits. Yeah, they drink a lot of whole milk. Um, they don't really have citrus juice. They don't have any servings of those fruits. Um, they might have one kind of fruit a day if they're lucky, maybe a vegetable a day on the question 9. 10, maybe nothing or something frozen. 11, didn't know, why take off the skin of the chicken, so I explained that. Did you have any fish? Fish, luckily, we're up in Maine, so people do like fish more, um, especially lobster when it's in season. It's a little more difficult in the winter, but so that was a little better than I expected that people did eat. Um, so, really starting to hit home at question 13. Does your plate look like any of those pictures there? And do you eat 2 or more vegetables at your main meal? And so does it look kind of like the My Plate that I showed them? And then 14, how do you read a nutrition label? Well, that, that probably took about 5 minutes or so. I didn't go in depth because obviously that could be a lot. That could be the whole other lecture. But just looking at essential percentages on the back, portion size, looking at the sugars, definitely. So starting to look at that. And then the last question, or the second to last, the 15 was, does your fridge look like this? And do you run out of food? And I know mine did, but people didn't seem to identify as much with that or didn't admit it. And then how would they rate their eating habits? And a lot of people said, 2 or 3, so down on the poor end. But now that they know, what could improve your habits, well, they started asking questions such as, well, I drink Coca-Cola and it really satisfies my cravings, but how can I reduce that? And so we said, substitute it out, or I said, substitute it out with some fresh fruits, or you can dilute it to start, because you have a catch on this because if you have a craving and you're eating ice cream or candy, it is, in my opinion, better than relapsing and going back and using heroin or drinking yourself to death or in a stupor. So it's kind of a trade-off, and you have to look at the healthier option when it comes to abuse and addiction. So how could you change to eat healthier? Well, they said from a lot of the recommendations I told them, which was great, assessing behavior change and starting to become aware of things in the grocery store. So shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, trying to eat fresher stuff, buying in bulk, looking for cheap recipes on a USDA website, and so really, and then looking at nutrition labels and understanding those much better, and making wiser choices. So that was a great conversation. We spent about 10 minutes discussing this, and everyone, raised their hand, and there was a lot more participation than than was anticipated. So that was good. Thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your interest, and I hope you learned something. Well, maybe you can take at least one thing away. And if there are any more questions, and I kind of stayed a little bit later and just sat around after the break, and if there are some more random questions, I understood them, and a lot of them were medical though because people were sick. So I said, listen to your doctor if they have you on a specific diet or eating specific things. Listen to that. Don't. These are just general recommendations I gave you today, but listen to your, get healthy first. So, and thank you. And I listed the resources, books, which are great here. Some more books and some websites just to start off so people can educate themselves on different things about recovery and nutrition. And my references are here. Thank you for your time.